What would you do if temptation was right at your fingertips? When the trust of the wealthy feels like a show and fortune waits just behind a door, a millionaire sets up a simple test for his maid, not realizing who will really end up changed. But can a game about money turn into a lesson neither side expected? Here, cash is just a backdrop. The real story is about values and human worth. You won't guess the ending until the very last moment. Danielle Adams moved quietly through the Rowan family's shimmering foyer, her polished shoes almost soundless against the hardwood floors. From the street, Michael Rowan's house suggested warmth. Big bay windows, a little swing in the yard, but inside, everything gleamed with a chilly perfection. Glass, marble, and walls decorated with magazine covers featuring Michael's bright smile or headlines about his millions. Just 2 weeks on the job, Danielle already knew the camera's subtle blink in the hallway corners. She could sense where to step and where to speak softly. She was careful, methodical. Her mother had taught her early that black women in white-glove homes are rarely allowed to make the same mistakes twice. Danielle wiped a fingerprint from the banister, tucked her notebook deeper in her apron, and listened for the sound of her new boss. Michael Rowan rarely spoke directly to the help. Danielle's mornings started with a checklist left by the house manager: what needed dusting, which deliveries to expect, and always a highlighted warning: do not enter the office unless requested. Everyone knew the rules. Danielle needed the work. Since her son Jordan started having breathing problems, every cent mattered. Medical bills grew faster than her paychecks at the old diner. This job, even with the pressure, even with the cameras, meant insurance. It meant a fridge always full, rent paid on time, and maybe a bike for Jordan's next birthday. So Danielle kept her head down, smiled, and did everything she could to please a man who, if he noticed her at all, seemed to do so with a faint air of suspicion. It didn't help that Michael Rowan's reputation preceded him. He donated to hospitals, appeared on panels about ethics, and spoke church audiences into tears. Yet in his own house, kindness was formal. Questions meant more to test than to understand, and trust seemed a distant, abstract thing. Danielle noticed how he checked the silver after parties, and made a point of reminding everyone, whether it was necessary or not, just how much everything cost. On her breaks, Danielle would call Jordan to check in. "Mama, do the people there treat you nice?" he asked once. She replied too brightly, "They do, baby. Mama's doing fine." The only room Danielle was never permitted to touch alone was Michael's office. The door was always closed, the air inside faintly tangy with cologne and old money. Behind his mahogany desk stood a colossal gray safe, its glossy surface unmarked, a silent guardian of whatever Mr. Rowan most valued. Danielle had glimpsed stacks of documents, maybe money, sometimes even gifts. Once, when she'd been called in to dust, Michael made a point to lock the safe in front of her, the keys jangling. She'd nodded, saying nothing, reminded of every line she would never be allowed to cross. Sometimes Danielle wondered if it was about money, or if the safe was a symbol that trust here wasn't ever really offered. The other house staff whispered stories of Michael's principles and of former maids tested until they stumbled. One had been fired on the spot, no explanation given, only a warning to remember who you work for. Still, Danielle kept hope alive. She chatted with the gardener, left cheerful notes for the chef, even joked with the youngest Rowan, a little girl who liked to follow her and ask questions. Danielle wanted more than to be tolerated. She wanted to be trusted, or at the very least, seen as someone who could be. But even that wish felt naive sometimes, like wishing winter would hurry and pass. At dinner, Danielle stood near the kitchen, watching Michael's laughter drift through the glass doors to guests on the patio. He was talking about generosity, about how the little things reveal a person's character. Danielle caught his eye for one small moment. He nodded, distant. She excused herself, heart heavy. Before bed each night, Danielle wrote in her battered journal. Tonight, her words wavered between resolve and exhaustion. I will work hard. I will not falter. Jordan is counting on me. But in the back of her mind, the echo of doors locking, eyes watching, and trust always just beyond reach lingered. A quiet test she felt she was always taking, even before the real one had begun. The following morning, Danielle awoke with a sense of unease that clung to her like morning fog. The events of the previous day, the open safe, the silent question in her eyes, replayed again and again in her mind. She wondered whether Michael had left the safe intentionally unlatched, as a hidden test or trap, or if it was just an oversight. Either way, it was clear that in this house, trust was a currency far more valuable and scarce than money. As she went about her duties, dusting crystal vases and arranging fresh flowers, Danielle's every movement felt scrutinized. Cameras mounted discreetly by the corners of rooms captured everything. The light catching on a chandelier, a shadow crossing the hallway, her gloved hands adjusting the linens. Unseen eyes and perhaps unseen judgments followed her every step. Michael seemed different too. Throughout the day, he found more reasons to check on things himself. His sharp blue eyes met hers several times in passing, as if searching for signs, a story hidden behind the calm exterior. When evening came, he left the house, only to return hours later with a faintly amused smile. "Danielle," he said quietly as she wiped down the kitchen counters, "do you believe in honesty at first sight?" She smiled, uncertain how to answer without betraying the tension in the room. "I believe honesty is a choice, made every day, no matter how small the moment." From that night onward, subtle changes unfolded. Michael began leaving small bills and expensive trinkets in visible spots across the house. The marble shelf in the foyer, the crystal bowl by the grand piano. Danielle noticed but did not reach for them. The gifts felt less like generosity and more like invisible tests of temptation. One afternoon, the housekeeper subtly hinted to Danielle, her voice low and full of warning. "Last maid didn't last till the weekend after they caught her looking through drawers. They don't take chances with him." Those words drifted in Danielle's mind like cautious whispers, reminders of what was at stake. She struggled with the growing pressure, her fatigue masked by steely focus. The well-being of her son Jordan was the only thing grounding her through the uncertainty. She confessed to her closest friend, "Sometimes I wonder if they expect me to fail, like I'm being set up to prove something I'm not. But I can't do that, not just for me." Days blended into nights, the house's quiet hum filled with unspoken challenges. One evening, while organizing books, Danielle caught a glimpse into the office. The safe's door remained slightly ajar again. Her heart pounded. Would this be the moment that changed everything? But the strength her mother had instilled in her, the focus on integrity, the sacrifices her family had made, kept her rooted. She turned away, not a finger out of place, choosing the harder path of truth. And unknown to her, Michael watched from the shadows, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, a mix of surprise, respect, and a dawning awareness that perhaps things were not as simple as he had presumed. Late at night, Danielle lingered in the dim hallway as the sound of Michael Rowan's voice rose sharply from his office. On the phone, he argued bitterly with a business partner who had just betrayed his trust, preaching ethics in public, deceiving in private. Danielle, standing silently, absorbed the conversation's raw edge. She knew she could have gleaned something useful, maybe a nugget of leverage, something she could one day use if cornered. But she turned away, refusing to build her own security on someone else's downfall. Respecting another's privacy might not change her circumstances, but it was a line she would not cross. Morning brought new worries. Her son Jordan started the day coughing, a harsh, rattling sound that made Danielle's heart lurch. The rescue inhaler was empty, and the local pharmacy didn't open for hours. Danielle's mind raced through her small savings, the bills piling up on the kitchen table, and the possibility that she'd have to quit the job she needed for its insurance and steady income. The uneasy tension from Michael's constant testing only added to her burden. That evening, Michael left early for a downtown meeting, instructing Danielle as usual to tidy up the house. As she gathered laundry, she noticed the door to Michael's office stood ajar. Her breath caught. This was the one place she only entered with explicit permission. Inside, the massive safe gaped open, shelves stacked not just with papers but with bundles of cash, expensive watches, and what looked like a small jewelry box of family heirlooms. For a moment, Danielle's hands trembled. She pictured Jordan in the hospital, imagined what a few of those bills could fix. No one would know. The cameras never captured the back of the safe, she was pretty sure. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Stealing isn't just about money, it's about who you decide to be. Danielle closed her eyes, let the temptation move through her. Then carefully, she shut the safe's heavy door, locking it with the code she'd seen Michael enter months before, but never planned on using. She dusted the desk, turned off the light, and closed the office door. What Danielle didn't see was Michael later that night, reviewing the camera footage. He watched her hesitate, watched her square her shoulders and walk away empty-handed. Something shifted in his expression. The skepticism that had always colored his view of his household staff faded, replaced by an emotion nearing respect. The next morning, Michael requested Danielle join him in the kitchen. His tone was direct, his posture stiff. "Did it ever cross your mind to take something from the safe?" he asked bluntly. Danielle met his gaze, not defensive, just honest. "It did. I thought about it, but I didn't. I couldn't. Not for who I am, not for my son." Hearing this, Michael seemed to let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. For the first time, the wall between them softened. In that moment, past and present merged. Michael remembered his own childhood, when want and shame felt sharper than hunger, and he recognized the dignity it took to walk away from easy wrong. From then forward, their relationship changed. Michael offered Danielle a promotion and support for Jordan's medications, but more importantly, trust, a say in household matters, opportunities for further advancement, and his genuine respect. The office door was never quite so forbidding. Danielle soon became a leader among the staff, helping others resist the pressure to act out of fear. Michael even started a fund for employee emergencies, using Danielle's story, shared with her permission, as a reminder to his team of what true character means. The safe, once a symbol of power and division, now represented something new, not what was kept inside, but what was shared and earned beyond its steel walls. Danielle's integrity, quietly tested and heroically chosen, became both her own bond and a gift to everyone around her, a reminder that in the end, the greatest wealth is the kind of person you choose to be. The change in Michael Rowan's mansion was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. After the kitchen conversation, the first honest exchange they'd ever shared, Danielle sensed the atmosphere beginning to shift. Her duties remained the same, the house as immaculate as always. But she noticed the way Michael now greeted her, with direct eye contact, offering a nod and a "good morning" that for once sounded truly meant. Word spread among the staff. Danielle was now trusted with more responsibilities, handling deliveries, organizing schedules, even given a small role in planning the next family celebration. Jordan's health stabilized too, as Michael quietly arranged for better insurance coverage and even left a get-well card at the kitchen table. One afternoon, Michael invited Danielle into his office, not to clean, but to sit and talk. He asked her opinion about a new hiring decision. For the first time, her words were heard. "I know I've been hard to work for," he admitted, glancing at the safe with a rueful smile. "It took your honesty for me to see what I'd lost along the way, how treating people like suspects leaves everyone poorer." Inspired by Danielle's story, Michael established an employee support fund, sharing publicly, with Danielle's blessing, how she'd passed every test he'd ever set. "Character," he told the assembled staff, "matters more than wealth." It's time this house reflected that lesson. Danielle addressed her co-workers. "Who we are when no one's watching, that's what shapes everything. If someone believes in you, fight to believe in yourself even more." Slowly, the culture of suspicion faded, replaced by real connection and support. Danielle's example became the heartbeat of the household, encouraging others to hold on to self-respect and integrity, even under unspoken scrutiny. As the seasons changed, the mansion transformed from a place of tests and silent doubts into a home where trust was built daily. Danielle, once just another face in the staff, now helped mentor new hires, her story a living example that real dignity isn't found in a safe. It's earned, moment by moment, in the choices we make. And for both her and Michael, those choices finally unlocked something far more valuable than any hidden fortune: the simple, lasting freedom to be seen, respected, and believed. Word of Danielle's new responsibilities and Michael's change of heart reverberated beyond the ornate doors of the Rowan home. It wasn't just the staff who noticed. Delivery drivers, caterers, and even Michael's own friends sensed a difference in how the household ran. For the first time in a long while, there was an undercurrent of warmth. Laughter sounded a bit less rehearsed, instructions a little less sharp. Danielle, once a quiet presence gliding from room to room, now stood at the hub of house operations, her confidence subtle but unmistakable. She used her new influence carefully, mentoring the other housekeepers and encouraging them to have pride in their work, even on exhausting days. Danielle made time to listen when the gardener's son got sick or when the laundry aide confessed nerves about speaking English in front of the Rowans. Her own struggle had become a quiet beacon, inspiring others to believe they were more than just invisible hands working in someone else's story. Meanwhile, Michael continued to examine his own motivations. He spoke less about charity at his social events and more about partnership, how trust, given freely instead of earned with suspicion, made everyone stronger. He encouraged other employers in his circle to abandon old ways of testing their staff. "If you never believe in people," he told a skeptical friend at a dinner party, "they'll never have a chance to rise to your expectations or to surprise you." Danielle, still humble, sometimes wondered if the changes would last. But each time she saw a staff member relax into a real conversation with Michael, or watched her son Jordan race through the kitchen after school, no longer fearing a sudden end to this chapter, she allowed herself to hope. It wasn't only about money now or security. It was about a new culture slowly emerging, one where the legacy a person leaves isn't found in a safe or on a spreadsheet, but in the daily acts of kindness and faith we offer those around us. For Danielle, that was wealth enough. The chance to build day by day a house where she and others could finally breathe, strive, and belong. As the seasons changed, so too did the atmosphere within the Rowan household. Danielle had become more than a maid. She was a pillar of strength, a symbol of integrity, and a beacon of hope not only to the staff, but to everyone who came into the home. Michael, once distant and guarded, was now a man transformed by a simple but profound lesson. Trust is not given arrogantly, but earned and cherished. His friendships, business dealings, and personal relationships flourished as he embraced vulnerability and humanity. The fund he created to support his employees' emergencies grew, fueled by donations from his network, inspired by Danielle's story. It provided scholarships, medical assistance, and counseling, changing lives far beyond the walls of the mansion. Danielle's son Jordan thrived in this new environment, his health stabilized and his future bright. Watching him play in the yard, Danielle felt peace she hadn't known since before the trials began. Reflecting on her journey, Danielle realized that honesty in the face of temptation had sparked a transformation far greater than she could have imagined. The safe, once a symbol of division and suspicion, was now a reminder of courage and respect. Her story traveled beyond the mansion, inspiring conversations about dignity, fairness, and the true meaning of wealth in many circles. In the end, the real treasure was not money or possessions. It was the gift of being seen, respected, and trusted for who you truly are. And that, Danielle knew, was the greatest legacy one could leave behind.